Welcome back to the Leadership Lowdown. This is Vic Verchereau here on the Michigan Business Network. I'm so glad you tuned in. We're glad to have with us today in studio a friend of mine. I like to call him friend. We've known each other for a lot of years. We've been in similar spaces together. Dan Zeiger is owner, president of Zeiger Financial. So Dan, welcome to our humble abode.
Well, thank you very much, Vic.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And it's really interesting. It's been, seems like weeks for us to get this organized so that I can get my schedule and your schedules together, so it finally worked.
Correct.
Yeah.
Busy people are hard to get together.
That's the ones we want to talk to, the ones that are busy, right?
Yeah.
So it's good stuff. Well, Dan, I know that you've got a long and frankly a distinguished career in the financial services insurance arena. Why don't you give me just a little bit, our audience, just a little feel for how you ended up at Zeiger Financial, because that's your organization, but you had a path that took you there. How did it all start?
Yep, I started back in 1984 and just by chance happened to get into the insurance industry and then segued into the securities and financial services and took the path of middle management and then ultimately moved to Michigan from Wisconsin as a regional director. Had a very successful career there and then decided in 2009 that I wanted a change. So I decided to go independent where I could serve my clients in a better way.
That's a bold thing to do that late in the career, right? I mean, that many years behind you, but that also was kind of a benefit because you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, well, companies are great, and I think sometimes a company goes one direction, and it's a great direction for the company, but we need to go a different direction at some time. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, so I got to ask, does that still make you a Badger then?
No, actually, when you come here, the hype, what part of the move here, was interesting. My middle daughter, we came and looked at Michigan, and I had never been in Michigan before, and we came on a day, it was a game day.
Oh,
Saturday.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And my middle daughter became a Spartan fan that day. When we built our house, we have Spartan green carpeting in her bedroom to this day.
Really?
And so she got
fun.
infected right away with that.
Yeah, well, and of course you probably have been to... is it Camp Randall over there? Is that what?
Actually, I have not been to a game there. No,
oh my
goodness. It was a little bit further away. Being a couple hours away. And
well, in a former life, I used to have a chance to go with the team, and we would go on the team buses. And we'd be coming through town, and there was a lot of people that gave us a lot of friendly smiles and waves. They just didn't use all their fingers. It was like, whoa, they're serious about football over here.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you've spent your time in the financial services and in this arena. Tell me what inspired you to get into the business.
Well, I worked landscaping for 12 years and almost cut my arm off with a chainsaw in a work-related accident.
Oh, did you get hit by this chainsaw?
Yeah, I did. And I decided that it was time for a career change.
Yeah.
And my dad had a property casualty agency, and I never went to work for my dad, but he encouraged me to get into the insurance, life insurance, and then ultimately the security side.
Yeah.
And so it was through encouragement of my dad and somebody that worked in his office.
Right.
He introduced me to a guy that was a manager that was just a great person, a great role model and mentor for me along the way, and till the day he died, really. So it was just fate. Once in a while we have things in our life that take us to certain directions.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
shouldn't question it. Just go with it, right?
Just go with it. So yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting to me is when we think about some of the career opportunities, different things that happen in our life. Getting into the insurance business, I happen to have a lot of experience in that arena, and I just know. Anybody can quote a price because the government says you have to have insurance on your car if you want to drive it down the road. Anybody can quote a price for home insurance because, you got to have it if your mortgage company says you got to have it. But when it comes to life insurance, there's nobody tapping you typically on the shoulder that says you got to have that. And so it's a created awareness, and it's helping a client understand the value of that, and so that changes. That's quite a different sale.
It is a very different sale because you're selling something, an intangible, and you're also selling something that when you ask somebody, do you want to buy life insurance, they think right away, I have to die.
Yeah, right.
And it's not about that. It's about who are we protecting. This is Life Insurance Awareness Month, and who are we protecting along the way? Who do we love that we want their life to maintain?
Well, I think we always say, really, you don't need life insurance unless you love somebody or unless you owe somebody. If you don't have that, then I guess no worries. But I think that's the whole point, is that life insurance does some pretty incredible things. But what I think is really important, and I have to be completely upfront with you, Dan, the reason why I thought you'd make such a great guest is because of some of the work ethic and the ways that you have unpacked your professional career. And I can't wait to show that to you in the audience here today, to have a chance for Dan to tell us about what brought him here, what made him successful, and what keeps him in the game. So Dan, thanks so much for being a part of this. We're looking forward to unpacking your story here on the Michigan Business Network. This is the Leadership Lowdown. I'm Vic Verchereau, and we'll be right back.
Michigan.
Celebrate the holidays and send the gift of Mackinac Island's original Murdoch's fudge to your clients, friends, and family. The pure Michigan freshness of Mackinac's original fudge will be delivered direct to their door. Holiday gift boxes with your choice of 12 different fudge flavors. Caramel corn, brittles, and toffee are all made with pure Michigan ingredients. Original Murdoch's fudge, direct from Mackinac Island by ferry through December 18th. Visit originalmurdochsfudge.com. That's originalmurdochsfudge.com.
This is Vic Verchereau here on the Leadership Lowdown. Welcome back. You're listening to the Michigan Business Network. We're glad you're here. We're glad to have the chance to our studios today with Dan Zeiger. He is the president and owner of Zeiger Financial. That's an independent financial firm, and he does a lot of great things for people. But Dan, I teased at the end of our last segment a little bit about why I was so impressed with you. And one of the things that I learned is that you actually came to my world recently and reintroduced yourself again through another guest that had been on this show. Here's somebody that really has some interesting leadership experience. And what I found out is that part of what you do is you just like talking to people. So it's kind of a skill of yours, but tell me, how does that fit into your business? Just talking to people doesn't seem like a way to make money, but tell me about that.
Well, I'm passionate about helping people, Vic, and I just believe that if I sit with 4 to 6 people every day, nothing else matters, and I'm going to be helping people along the way and be able to help them with their personal things, but also a lot of those are centers of influence that I might be able to introduce to other people along the way.
Right.
So that I can help them in one capacity or another to try and continually be out there and just serving people.
So I love this, and this is and part of what I think is really important to anybody, especially in sales, or to anybody that is trying to be effective in their leadership role. I call it systems. They need to have specific systems in their daily routine so that this is what I do. So when you're not out selling, you've got a marketing element that maybe your staff is taking care of, or you've got some other things that are going on, and this is just the way I do things. So I want to talk about that visit that you have with people, because for people that are tuning in, they may be thinking, well, I don't know if I could go see 4 or 5. Think about the power if you're in an industry. Just say, hey, I just want to get together, have a cup of coffee with you. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to hear your story and just have a new person in the industry. That's kind of how you present yourself,
That's
right?
exactly what I do. I consider myself a professional visitor.
Right.
And
I love it.
I just go out and visit with people, and again, I love hearing their stories. Everybody's got a story, and I love getting to know people, learning what their stories are all about, letting them explain who they are, what they are, where they came from.
Right.
It's interesting to me, and I think it's pretty easy. It's an easy way to market myself. It's an easy way to help other people, and it's not a job. It's just you get out and see people every day, and it's not a job at all.
Right. Well, and what we often talk about in sales is the notion that you need to have sales activity. And so I think sometimes people that are new to sales, they might sometimes think, well, I need to have a sales call. Well, I think what you're doing is you're having a visit, and if it turns into a sales call, that's great. The worst thing that could happen is somebody turns into a referral, like what happened in you and I getting together. Mm-hmm. You made an advocate out of somebody, and they said, well, you need to talk to Dan Zeiger. right? And so that there it was, your organization, because of your systems that you put in place, was selling you without you even in the room. I think that's really cool and an effective use of, especially good salespeople, to have the momentum. And so I gotta ask you, are there days when you're like, I don't feel like visiting with anybody today?
No, the only days I have like that are days where I have, like, we had the snow day this year, and I had 6 people cancel on me. And by 10:30 in the morning, I was telling my wife, I said, I can't retire. This is driving me nuts to sit home like this.
You were too grumpy.
And I need people to go see. So when I get up and I have 4 to 6 people to see, you can't feel bad about yourself when you're visiting and helping others.
Yeah.
It just drives me every day to get up and go see as many people as I can see.
Well, I want to stand on that just for a second, because this whole visiting with people and trying to help them, I want to make sure that I understand it, because I think what you're saying is that you want to help people, but it didn't mean you want to. I don't hear you. I haven't heard you once say I want to sell them something. So when you say help, there may be no payday in this at all for you, correct?
That's correct. A lot of times it may be simply, if I'm talking to somebody and I can refer somebody to them.
Yeah.
One of my clients may need a service and I can refer them to somebody else. So I try and connect with other business people to be an advocate for their business.
Right.
Sometimes it's just somebody needs a listening ear. Sometimes people just need to, what I like to refer to as dump their bucket. And they need somebody that cares, somebody that'll listen and not judge them for what they do. And if there's going to be enough. If I see 4 to 6 people every day, I'm always going to make enough money to pay the bills.
Well, I think that's true, and I'm intrigued by this because our audience is varied and comes from a lot of different backgrounds. But truly, I'm thinking about, if this is the business that we're in, I think there's an opportunity for a lot of people to expand their influence and to really identify opportunities in their business just by having a cup of coffee with somebody, right?
Correct. Without a doubt.
Yeah, and it probably, so some of the conversational techniques that you have, is it start out with, well, tell me a little bit about yourself? Is that?
Well, usually I ask, are you from the area?
Yeah.
Again, just getting the conversation going. And then I've been told by others, not myself, is that I'm very good at following rabbit trails from there. So as they talk about maybe going to a certain school, then you can ask them about the school or a certain profession, or or if they talk about their children and their eyes light up, learning more about their children. And so it's just kind of really listening and then engaging the conversation and following those rabbit trails.
Yeah, well, Dan, to me it's an inspiration, because I think for any of us working in an industry of any type, there are people that can influence our own world and be beneficial to us. And if we go out and spend some time trying to meet with them and have a conversation with them, I think there's a lot of benefits for everybody involved. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today, and I'm glad that you've tuned in here to Leadership Lowdown. This is the Michigan Business Network. I'm Vic Verchereau. We'll be right back.
The Lansing Board of Water and Light is working on a cleaner energy future. A plan proposed by a citizens committee and the BWL will replace the coal-fired Eckert plant with power from wind turbines, solar panels, energy-saving technologies, and cleaner natural gas that improve our air quality and environmental health. Learn more about the BWL's plan to become Michigan's cleanest electric utility at LansingEnergyTomorrow.com. The Lansing Board of Water and Light. Hometown people, hometown power.
You're listening to the Michigan Business Network here on the Leadership Lowdown. This is Vic Verchereau, and my guest today is Dan Zeiger. He is president of Zeiger Financial, and I'm enjoying the opportunity to visit with you, Dan, because we're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is how do you become successful? And I refer to them as there's certain systems. One of your systems is to meet and greet 4 to 6 people every day, and we can say, well, why do you call that a system? Well, it's what you do. It is a key element to your success. And I'll bet there's other things in your world that are very much like that are elements that I think that you wouldn't want to go a week without doing. So what are some of the other things that drive your business success?
Well, I think the biggest thing that drives my big business success is that I think we've all been blessed with certain talents and abilities. and that we are responsible for using those talents and abilities to serve others. If I'm a roofer, I need to be the best roofer I can be. When I worked landscaping years ago, I just had the attitude nobody was going to outwork me. Now it's just a matter of I'm going to go out every day and serve as many people as I can serve using the talents I've been blessed with and being a giver. Some people are not givers. I'm a giving type of person. I like that about myself, and I don't want to switch from doing that.
Yeah.
So I just continue to do that every day. I get up in the morning with that as a thought. Who can I serve today?
That's really cool. I hate to make a bunny trail, but what's coursing through my mind, I've got a guy that is an important leader in my life right now, and he talks about what he wants to do is bless people, grow companies, and fund ministry. That's his deal. And I'm trying to help him with all of that. But just stop for a minute on this whole bless people. Because when you think about bless people or help people, whatever it is, when that becomes kind of in your forefront, it's surprising the number of times you see an opportunity to help people. So if that isn't something that's a part of your spirit, you just kind of walk right past people and don't even think about how you're going to help them. But that's got to be a change in terms of how you look at things, because you must see the world a little bit differently, because there's a chance I've got here today to help somebody and make a difference.
I think I have, and I've known it for a long time. I had a secretary for a while back, and she told me how I had the uncanny ability to pick up when people needed a word of encouragement.
Yeah.
But I think everybody can do it. It's
Yeah.
just, are you going to stop your life long enough to look at who's in it or who's around you?
And you also said, using the talents you're given, using those God-given talents to do something special or to bless people or to do some good. I think I agree 100%. I would add to it that it sometimes doesn't even take talent; it just takes awareness to try to bless people. And I was thinking about this the other day. I walked into Myers, and I don't know why. All of a sudden, I'm a germaphobic. I start wiping down my cart with those little wipes, And as I'm doing that, I look over and I see this elderly couple come in. He's a tall, lanky guy. He's got a cane, and he's walking, just shuffling his feet barely. And he's got this wife who's a lot shorter than him. And they're looking around for one of those electric go-karts, that you have to shop with at Myers, right? And so she looked around. She couldn't find one. And I overheard her say, well, we're just going to have to walk. And so they got the cart out, and they started pushing the cart, shuffling at a slow pace. I felt so bad for him, but because this blessed people was in my mind, I thought, you know what? They're just at the wrong door. They've got lots of these carts. So I went to the other end of the store, found a cart, right? I've never driven one of these things. I unplug it and I out of the wall, and I jump in it and I take off, and it's like it was the slowest thing ever. I'm going, you got to be kidding! And I felt like the whole store was looking at me like, what's wrong with him? Why is he taking that cart? And I just felt so silly. Well, now I've got to try to find them, right? So I'm looking for them, and I see them over on the aisle. And although they're going terribly slow, I've got to aim ahead because this cart is so slow to try to cut them off to try to find them where I'm at. Anyways, the bottom line is I finally caught up with them. And when I got to them, I said to the lady, I said, look, this is none of my business, but I overheard you saying that you could use a cart. Would this be helpful? And she almost started crying. And here's the rest of the story. Her husband had a stroke just prior, and he was recovering from that. And they needed the cart. Mm-hmm. And so it was such a neat thing. And it reminded me, she had such a sense of hopelessness, and it was my opportunity to bless them. So talent, yes, using our talents, absolutely, but being aware that there are people out there that can really be honored by just us paying attention, right?
Yeah. Well, and even little things, like one time I was in a local restaurant at Bob Evans, and I was meeting somebody, and before he got there, I noticed an elderly couple. They were just having a bad day. Yeah. And I paid the waitress for their meal. And by the end of the meal, they were having a pretty good day.
Better day.
And so
yeah.
Just little things like that.
Yeah.
My wife and I do that all the time. Like even with gift cards, we'll just hand out to people.
Yeah, I would be surprised if in your pocket right now you don't already have a number of gift cards that are just in your pocket.
In my vehicle, I do.
Yeah. And I happen to know we're going to go into that when we come back from the break, because I think this is a great story about blessing people, being relevant in your community, and doing the right things. And Dan, you do so many right things, and the right thing you did today was come to our show. We're glad you're here on the Leadership Lowdown. This is the Michigan Business Network. I'm Vic Verchereau.
hiring? Capital Area Michigan Works can assist you with your hiring needs, all at no cost. From large-scale hiring assistance to locating the right candidate for a hard-to-fill position, Capital Area Michigan Works is your resource. We offer creative solutions from career fairs to on-the-job training grants and scholarship programs to make sure you have the best and brightest employees. Visit our website at www.camw.org to learn more about how we can assist your business with its hiring needs.
You're listening to the Michigan Business Network. This is the Leadership Lowdown, and I'm Vic Verchereau. We're so glad you joined us today. And in studio, we have Dan Zeiger. He's with Zeiger Financial. He's the president of that independent firm, and we're so glad you're here, Dan. Dan, just before we went to break, you talked about something that I thought was so cool. When we were in our visit here a few months ago, we talked about some of the ways you like to bless people, and one of them was that gift card notion. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, my wife and I decided, years ago that our life has been pretty blessed, and we're able to pass those blessings on to others. And so we'll buy gift cards to different restaurants. We'll buy gift cards to Meijer, and then just randomly, for whatever reason, she'll see somebody or I'll see somebody that we just feel we want to bless. One time in a snowstorm, she saw an elderly couple with what appeared to be their daughter, and they were in a snowstorm walking outside Meridian Mall, and she just walked up and gave them a gift card for Outback. Was that one? And most of the time we have her do it because it's, especially if it's a female, it's a little less intrusive when she goes up and says, "Hey, we just saw you. We wanted to do this to bless you." Another time we were in Meijer, and this little boy was just having a bad day, which was making his mom have a bad day. Then she went to check out by the toy section, which really kind of escalated things. And so she was losing her patience. And again, I gave the gift card. I pulled it out of my pocket, gave it to my wife, and she went over and gave it to the lady. And she immediately took it to the checkout because she thought, I think, that there was nothing on it. And there was. And when she found out there was a big smile on her face, and she allowed her son to get a little ball, which she didn't appear to have the money to get because she was paying for everything with bottle slips.
Oh, man.
And we don't know that when we give them out. We just randomly pick people that we see. Another time we were in a restaurant, just a wonderful family came in with 4 kids, and they were so well behaved, so much interaction between mom and dad and kids. And so my wife goes, pick up their tab for their meal. And so when I paid for our meal, I picked up their tab for their meal, and then she went and told them before we left that just what a great family they appeared to be and how much fun they had. So just, so cool. Again, just taking our resources, whatever they may be, whether that's raking somebody's leaves, giving a gift card. There's so many ways we can help others, and we just sometimes don't pay attention to it.
But I want to just go a little bit deeper, because just to clarify with our listeners, this isn't, you didn't hand somebody a $500 gift card.
No.
You might have handed them a $25 or
$25 or $50 is typically the gift cards.
And the point is that you're making a difference. Think about the lift of what that is. And sometimes those of us that have been blessed and have the resources to do certain things, sometimes, what is $25 going to do? But when you're paying for groceries with bottle slips, what a difference that can make, and what a difference. And then it's the whole outlook. I love, we've talked about it before on the show, the notion of the ripple effect, because the things that you can do. So a mom that might be a single parent that's really struggling and having some issues and finds an act of kindness like that, what a powerful moment it is to be able to say the rest of the world isn't mean and nasty. There are people in the world that are good at the core, and their nature is, and it's a powerful gift. And I commend you on that. I think it's really cool.
Well, and I think it goes beyond that. Sometimes it may be just telling a waitress what a great job she does, or how much you appreciate the job she does. Right. Sometimes just that encouragement to somebody can mean so much to them, because everybody needs to be encouraged. We all have days that we may be down, and when we take just that second to say thank you for what you're doing, I appreciate that you're here today, it can really lift some people's spirits. Yeah.
Well, it reminds me, I just had a flashback, and this is it shows my age, but there's an old comedian by the name of Carol Burnett, and Carol Burnett used to always talk about trying to lift people with the smallest, nicest gesture. And if it's in a checkout lane, as an example, and somebody, might have stripe of blue in their hair today. That's just the way it is, right? It might be blue and magenta, who knows? But the whole point is that say, that is such a cool color. Why did you pick that? That's all, and just lighten them up. Because if you think about it, they're standing at attention for hour on end, and it's something that probably you and I couldn't do. But boy, what a difference it is to give them a lift in their day and make it special. When you think about that, Dan, I just, again, want to encourage what I heard you say is that I'm my systems I'm using is I'm talking to people, trying to find out their story to see if I can bless them, number one, and number two, to see if there is a need for what it is that you do. And then this other random act of kindness is simply just a tremendous way for you to stay positive and to do something good and to kind of pay it forward because you've been blessed yourself.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so I love the fact that after you and your wife get done doing one of those, what's it like in the car when you're driving away from Myers and you've just done something fun and you see it?
We just have a great conversation. It's a feel-good moment. It's a warm fuzzy. A lady years and years ago at church told me about that. I was good at giving but not receiving, and I had a house fire. And so the church and a lot of the community came out and gave to me, and I wasn't very receptive at being the receiver. And she pretty much told me, she said, how good you feel when you give something, you get that warm fuzzy.
Yeah.
She said that's how other people are when they're giving you something, whether that's a gift, a word of
coaching,
encouragement. And so I've always kind of stuck to that at this point.
You bet. Well, you're giving us a lot today, Dan. I really appreciate the fact you're here. Glad you've tuned in to the Michigan Business Network. This is the Leadership Lowdown. I'm Vic Verchereau.
Sanair has been advancing communities and providing opportunities for people in Michigan for more than 25 years. Through lending, investments, and the creation of homes and jobs, Sanair has made a combined $7 billion impact on the communities they serve. Learn more at www.sanair.com.
This is Vic Verchereau here on the Leadership Lowdown. You've tuned in to the Michigan Business Network. We're glad you're here. We're glad Dan Zeiger is here of Zeiger Financial. Dan, my bucket's overflowing today because I just feel like we're talking about really fun, good things and things that make a difference for everybody. And I don't care if you're running a company, riding in the caboose. The bottom line is that there are ways you can impact people around you and be influential in a positive, great way and create ripple effects. And so to that point, I believe that none of us have ever done it alone. And you have a successful career, and you as a business person doing what you've done all these years, you've been around the world, you've financially been successful, but it didn't happen alone. There's probably some people in your life that you look back and go, yep, that's when they lifted me. That I probably was ready to crash and burn if it wasn't for them. So who's the first one that comes to mind?
First one to come to mind would be my parents.
Yeah.
I was privileged and watched them be very good people, giving, sharing, always helping people around them, always encouraging everybody, encouraging us kids. Kind of they were my hero and wanting to grow up and be like that.
Yeah.
My dad introduced me to a guy that he was it was my first job cleaning a bar and restaurant every morning for $2 an hour cash, and I had to go there 2 hours every morning before school. And this guy would actually pull money out of his pocket and say it came from somebody else to have me wash cars of veterans in the area. So he'd say, go wash this person's car, and then I'd come back and he'd say, well, they paid you this, and give me whatever he gave me. And I knew it was coming out of his pocket.
Wow.
But, so I had that.
But right, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that really, you watch somebody. That's way different. So you watched him do that, and you experienced it from his actions. That's way different than, get over here, son, let me tell you how it's done, right?
Correct.
That's
Correct.
powerful
Yeah.
and meaningful because it stuck with you all these years.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the lady from church was helpful because you can be a giver and then you're not very good at receiving.
Yeah.
And when people give to you, you kind of don't know how to accept it, and you learn to just say thank you. But then also in the business, there was several key players that one was a president of the company I represented that I was on an elevator, and one of the top people told him, watch that kid, he's going to do amazing things. And he came and told me that. And by his example, I learned a lot. And then another guy was about, getting in this business. It's a business. When you get in this business, you want to get out 50 times in the first year.
Right.
And I had a friend of mine, I went to actually apply for a job, and he told me he wouldn't hire me, but he would help me. And he actually he taught me how to work through centers of influence, how to have these meetings every day, how to go out and market yourself in the community, that you're your own marketing department.
Which you're using today.
Which I'm using still today.
Yeah.
And he actually introduced me, gave me the credit, and I didn't deserve the credit. He came up with the idea, but a thing called our board of directors. And it was 10 business people in the community that the goal was almost like a BNI, but it was limited to 10. But you just went out and you purposely tried to find referrals for them and meet them once a month to share those referrals.
Yeah.
And so, again, just kind of taught me part of the system I use today as far as getting out, seeing people, and trying to bring something to the table.
Well,
for
you've
them.
got buckets of good stuff that you just shared with us. Let me go back to this board of directors, because you just came off of that. So there's a concept called the board of directors that I'm aware of. Let me see if it's different than what you're talking about. One of the concepts is, as a business leader, as a new salesperson, as a young man leading people, doesn't matter. The idea is to create your own personal board of directors, people that would care about you and would be willing to pour into you, and you have a great deal of respect for them. And so it isn't as though you have this board meeting. It would be individuals that you would go to and have your monthly coffee with to talk about what's going on in their life. They would ask you about how your business is going, and you have a rich contextual conversation that would be a leadership moment between you two. And you might do that with 5 or 10 other leaders. Is that similar, or would
Very,
you?
very similar.
Yeah.
What we did is we created some rules. One is that we would meet once a month as a group.
So as a group, okay.
But then you had to see everybody in that group, so you had 9 meetings per month
Right.
that you had to do. And when I came to the table, if you were a guy that owned a car dealership, for example, when I came to the table with you, I had to bring a referral or an idea that would help you grow your business,
Yeah.
and you had to have that for me.
Well, boy, that is the forerunner of a BNI group, isn't it?
And that was back in 1985, May of 1985.
They didn't call it that, did they?
Well, we called it our board of directors, and again, the guy that created it gave me all the credit, which I didn't deserve because it wasn't my idea, but he gave it to me so I would have credibility with people that were way beyond me.
Isn't that something?
And so that kind of kept me in the business where I was actually looking at that time to find something else to do.
Yeah.
He saw, again, something in me, friend of mine for years, saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so I think when we see new people in a business, we should, if we've been around a while, encourage them to whatever business that is, and maybe try and help them get going, either through referrals, introductions to other people, and try and help them grow too.
Well, I think it's so powerful, because even if you're mentoring to them or they're mentoring to you, either way, there's benefit flowing both ways. Even if it's young to old, old to young, or same age, it doesn't matter. So I love that, Dan. I love the fact you took time out to be with us today. So glad the audience is here on the Michigan Business Network. This is the Leadership Lowdown. I'm Vic Verchereau. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Tico Duckett with Duckett Brothers Distributing. If you're ever in need of janitorial supplies and services, give us a call, 517-487-6500. Duckett Brothers Distributing. We never drop the ball.
This is the Leadership Lowdown. You tuned in to the Michigan Business Network, and I'm Vic Verchereau. Today we've had just a groundswell of ideas and concepts shared by Dan Zeiger in the greater Lansing area. And Dan, you come to us via Wisconsin, so welcome to the real heartland over here, right? So, you said in the last segment, we kind of got buried in some other really good stuff, but I wanted to go back to that elevator ride. You mentioned that there was an elevator ride, a top agent who, that's interesting to me, because that was somebody you probably looked up to and admired, because as a new agent, you're like, I want to be like that guy or gal. And then he said to the president, watch that guy. And that president then reached out to you and had some form of an exchange with you as a young man in the company. Is that true?
That's correct. Actually, the guy in the elevator was the #1 manager in the country.
Oh, my word.
And so he had 50 agents that were working for him. He was the number one. So, I mean, I didn't even think he knew I existed when I was on that elevator.
Right.
I mean, we exchange a hi, how are you type of thing. So where he made his assessment of me, I have no idea. But when he took that to the president brought it back to me. It did change the way I felt about, hey, maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
So it actually changed the way I felt about somebody that I looked up to that I thought was unapproachable. Because I later found he was very approachable. It's just that because he was number one, and I was just, at that time in my eyes, just a little peon brand new agent. It actually showed me that, no, top people are approachable. And
absolutely.
They will spend time, and they will try and coach and mentor and help. And
I think that's how they got to be top people, because they surrounded themselves with people they could pour into. A lot of what you've done. I remember in my world, the first time as a manager, field manager, I looked up, and on the big awards night, down the escalator comes the number one agency manager. He's in a tuxedo. His wife's dressed in a red sequin dress. And I'm like, oh, that is so cool. And so the Lord blessed us, and 5 years in a row we won that same award. And every year our entire agency wore tuxedos, all because of that moment. And these people that are successful, they're successful because they do pour into people, because they will do it. And I can tell you, having had titles affixed to myself, it's frustrating. People treat you differently.
Oh, when you're a president, yeah, because, I mean, you're unapproachable to me. You're the president. Why would you talk to me?
Yeah, and so, and then the other thing, too, that happened, and I just want to point this out for those in the audience that have a title. I don't care if it's director, manager, supervisor, or president. The bottom line is when you look through your organization chart and there's people below you on that chart, you have an opportunity to pour into them, and that title you have carries a lot of weight. There might be a young person or a new person to the organization, and you as a director or you as a manager reach out to them and welcome them or give them a lift or a moment of encouragement. You've done so much, and you've leveraged the title that you were given, and you've poured into somebody in a positive way. Great things can come from that. Yeah. So Dan, look, I wish we could keep on going, because you have the heart that I really love and appreciate in people in business. You're here to make something better. If you look at my tagline on my email, it says, anybody can make a living. I want to make a difference. Mm-hmm. I think that's you, and I think that's the way you've built yourself. So if there's somebody out here that says, I want to have a cup of coffee with Dan, how do they get that done?
The best way is either call or text my cell phone at 517-202-2362, or they could send me an email, and that is Zeiger, Zeiger 609 @gmail.com.
Love it. And I think, and we'll put all that information up on our website as well. But I just I think, Dan, as you think about, you've had a long, distinguished career. I don't know how many more years you want to go. You truly look like a young, healthy individual right now, like you go run a mile. My issue is, as you look at that, I think back to what you shared with us, the snowstorm. You can't imagine not having a cup of coffee, talking to somebody about how I can help them and what's going on in their life.
Yeah, well, I look at that. Somebody told me that years ago. He said he was in the business. I think he was 78 years old at the time, and I talked to him, and he said, well, who do you see in McDonald's in the morning? I said, well, old guys having coffee. He said, well, that's what I do. And so I just can't wait to get up and help people every day. I like doing it. Again, right now I'm mentoring people with the idea that if something did happen to me, there would be an exit strategy that other people would come in and make sure my clients were well cared for.
Yeah, and at some point in time, after your fourth, fifth, and maybe now your sixth visit of the day, you probably don't need any more coffee. But
no, I switched to tea. Usually, I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning. Then I have tea in restaurants, or if I'm eating, I'll have ice water. I did have coffee all day, every day for a long time.
Yeah.
I just decided I didn't like my mouth tasting like coffee.
Well, plus you started to vibrate.
Yeah, that wasn't so much. I mean, I have high energy level anyway, but it was just a different flavor needed to be had. So I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, then I switch. And my morning is a routine as well. You talk about systems, and I get up in the morning, I do my devotional, and then I go for a 4-mile walk every day.
That's
my
the way
system.
You live your life. Well, Dan, I can't speak for the audience. I can speak for me. You've inspired me. You are truly a great gift to the community. and I think you're a gift to the people that are around you, and that's really a great way to live your life right there. So thanks so much for being a part of this. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Vic. Appreciate it.
You bet. And thank you to our audience for listening to the Michigan Business Network. This is the Leadership Lowdown. This is Vic Verchereau. We'll talk to you next time.